Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. We talk about Yes Bank today. So the bank has been reconstructed. There's a unique reconstruction, reopened for business last evening at 6 o'clock in 12 days flat after a moratorium. This is unique to India, and I think the people who managed to do it need to be congratulated. In fact, the RBI governor, Mr. Sucheta Dalal, said at a press conference that the regulator had acted very quickly to fix the Yes Bank crisis. Well, don't know about that. They've really dragged it for a long time. But the minute they decided to do it, which is sometime in February, and we had a blog at that time about it, they have acted really quickly. And credit is certainly due for the manner in which it was handled. And what I discover, which is what this video blog is about, is the kind of ups and downs that happened behind the scenes in these 12 days after moratorium was declared, and the bank said from 6th March that only 50,000 rupees could be withdrawn by depositors. There wasn't the usual panic because of the manner in which it was handled. In fact, the very next day the government came up with a scheme and an assurance. It had leaders of industry coming out in public to reassure people that this is going to be a short moratorium and the bank is going to open very, very quickly. We in India are not used to believing these promises, so it is certainly a big deal that this promise has been fulfilled. In fact, let's look at the three issues that need to be complemented. First, it is signaled that all private losses will not be dumped onto the public sector. This is a public-private bailout. It's unique. It has followed a different model, and it has set an example for what can be done. The idea, of course, came from a private sector stalwart, as I said on 13th of February. Now, the second important thing is the complete secrecy with which it was handled. So all the ups and downs the past 12 days, nothing was known until the moratorium was declared. Things had worked behind the scenes. A gazette notification obviously doesn't happen without a lot of work going into it. And even what was happening in terms of getting investors, extremely well handled. There wasn't the usual leakage. And here, compliments to State Bank of India and SBI CAPS, which was apparently handling the negotiations. The third issue is, having put in a new management, the manner in which the reopening of the bank has been handled. I notice a lot of social media posts that also clearly have come from the bank. It had two press conferences by the RBI governor as well as a new team led by the State Bank of India chairman, which reassured people. The key, of course, is today. Today is the day in the middle of a lockdown due to the coronavirus, whether people are going to transfer their money, withdraw their money. I don't think it is happening, and hopefully Yes Bank has survived to fight another day. Why do I say fight another day? Because a real turnaround or not will be known in 3 years. This is the time period in which the investors who come in have been told that they can't withdraw their money. 75% of their investment is locked in, and a new management has that kind of elbow room in which to demonstrate that they can make this work. Question is, will it remain a satellite of State Bank of India and behave like a public sector undertaking, or will it go back to being a dynamic private bank that was propelled to the 4th largest private bank in India? While the public may not withdraw their money, the stock market seems to have given a resounding vote of confidence to this restructuring that's happened. The share price soared on 18th March to 79 rupees. It of course crashed before the end of the day to 60. That's a bit worrying, but 60 for a 2 rupee share, which had sunk to 5.5 rupees on March 6th, is quite an unbelievable climb up, of course with a lock-in. So we're going to watch the share price movement, but this has been another confidence building exercise in the meanwhile. Now let's look at what's been happening behind the scenes. If you remember, originally on 6th March, State Bank of India was supposed to have come in with 49% equity and bring in just 2,450 crore. That changed dramatically. Now, why did that happen? Because insiders tell me that at that time, foreign investors were supposed to come in. So 3 large marquee investors, Blackstone, Brookfield and Carlyle, we all know that they were the bank was talking to them, but they had committed as much as $2 billion. It was all going well, even after the moratorium, and then all of a sudden they walked away. Why did they walk away? Because the questions that they had, including issues about what is the kind of mess there is, does it require a forensic audit, the comfort that they wanted about the true state of accounts was not given to them. I think it's such a pity that we lost this opportunity. But to SBI's credit, they kept that under wraps and went about roping in Indian banks to come in. So as we know, 8 bankers have come in, and they brought in the remaining money to make up this 10,000 crore that was pumped in. SBI itself has had to increase its investment dramatically. In fact, from the 2,450 crore, it has eventually got 6,050 crore. Then you have ICICI Bank and HDFC Bank coming in with 1,000 crore each. There's Axis Bank, Kotak Bank, Bandhan Bank, IDFC First and Federal Bank. Now, interestingly, I'm told by some bankers who were part of this deal that nobody had to be arm twisted or coerced to come in, because private sector bankers for once realized, and I've said this last time, they're not doing anyone a favor. They realize that they also have to contribute to the mess that has happened because of series of big private sector blow-ups. It can't be that there will be private profits and public losses and public sector will take the mess. So you had infrastructure leasing and financial services. ILFS used to masquerade as a government undertaking with all the freedom and the mismanagement that could happen in the private sector with no questions asked, and a sleeping board of directors. You had Diwan Housing, you had PMC Bank, which was looted by HDIL, which is another branch of the same Vadhavan family. After these 4, and remember 3 of them were bracketed as systemically important companies, the regulator was sleeping. Kudos to the private sector that they did not have to be pushed, they understood their responsibility. And again, guess what? They have not demanded a seat on the board because all of them have come in, despite the lock-in, as financial investors. In fact, a person very close to the deal says, we chose to be purely financial investors and our primary aim was to signal that we were willing to do our bit to support the Indian financial system. So they did not ask for inside details about the accounts, they went by published information, which means that they're going to keep an arm's length relationship and they're going to hope that their money can be recovered. Doesn't matter the lock-in. They're all very optimistic at the moment, but we'll all be watching closely what this management does. There are 4 people who've been appointed. One of them has been a favorite of this government and a non-executive chairman of Punjab National Bank, has a Citibank background. Let's see what they do. A lot is expected from them. So Indian banks are on board. Now, let's look at what the public stance was. So you remember the State Bank of India chairman held a press conference on the eve of this bank being reopened. What did he say? He said that a lot of international investors had shown interest, but it was decided not to get them in stage 1 because the moratorium may not have been lifted. This sort of implies that they would have to pass the fit and proper test and RBI would have to clear it. I don't see why it couldn't have been done earlier, because remember, the previous management under Mr. Ravneet Gill had been talking to dozens of foreign investors. Many of them were very keen on investing. In fact, some of them, like Tilden Park, had even brought in money into India and put it in an escrow account. 2 foreign investors had actually put expressions of interest in writing. Now, why should it take so long to clear it? The SBI chairman says it would take long, and he also says maybe another 10,000 crore could be raised in round 2 through a rights issue. Obviously, this bank is going to need more capital, especially if it needs to expand. The chairman says 10,000 crore was for this mess to recapitalize the bank. Growth may require a rights issue. Will foreign investors come in at that time? They walked away, remember, and this is not in the public domain. This is something that we're telling you exclusively. Now, I'm told again by my sources very reliably that at least one deputy governor of the Reserve Bank of India was dead against foreign investment. I don't understand why this attitude, because a lot of the top Indian private banks have huge foreign investment, and a sinking bank definitely needed it. Whatever the reasons, he was under the impression that they would pay 20 rupees instead of 10. Now, a bit of background, this is a 2 rupee share which was purchased at a premium of 8 rupees. So all the banks came in, including SBI, at 10 rupees. This RBI deputy governor apparently thinks a rights issue can be made at 20 rupees. Well, the stock was at 60 yesterday. It's down again today as I'm recording this. We can keep our fingers crossed. It is an abnormal situation with a lock-in. When there is a rights issue, let's see whether you can price it. It all depends on how well the RBI and the government supports Yes Bank's management just now, and what the management does to rebuild investor confidence in the coming days. But there is absolutely no room for complacency. In fact, another thing that you would have seen in the media reports is that SBI Caps was also talking to family offices of large investors like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, Om Damani, and others, even the Wipro Home Foundation. They didn't come in eventually. Maybe if foreign investors don't come in, they will be roped in. But nobody commits their money for the heck of it. They have to have a reasonable assurance that the bank is going to function well, and that is something we're going to watch. Like I said, there's a lot of pressure on the new management. They need to live up to it. So what we have seen is smart and feasible in terms of what has been done. What is going to happen in future remains to be seen. There's one niggling issue that has to be handled, and I discussed this last time, which is the manner in which the additional tier 1 bonds have been treated. These have been written down to zero. Who are the investors? A lot of mutual funds and some individuals who were missold the bonds, and others. They've gone to court. They pleaded to get an 80% haircut. Nobody listened to them. There's a story even over here. The Gazette notification, and I'm going to show you the image, actually did not provide for writing off the bonds. Even what the RBI announced at the time of the moratorium did not talk about AT1 bonds being written off completely. We knew there were negotiations going on. Finally, Yes Bank, now again, one of my inside sources says that on 14th March, when Yes Bank's capital adequacy dropped to 0.6%, Yes Bank's board, the newly appointed one, rejected the plan to swap the bonds into equity, write down capital even more, and give them a chance. This seems patently unfair. They've gone to court. Axis Bank, India Bulls, Barclays, and 3 investors are in the Bombay High Court. Let's see what the court decides. That's out in the open. But everybody connected with this seems to think that it's completely unfair. In fact, a very respected name in the financial world said this is so badly handled because tier 2 bonds are not even sacrificing interest. Equity holders who are the last in the chain are getting a premium. This is what the court may look at, that if equity holders get a premium of 8 rupees, why on earth are AT1 bond holders, which is again retail money coming through institutions, wiped out like this? This has consequences to how AT1 bonds are issued, and bonds issued by other banks. 12 other banks have issued them. Again, like I said, easily avoidable little controversy at a time when the private sector is coming in to bail out this bank. Need not have been done because it's punishing retail investors either directly or indirectly. What's the future of the bank? All the dirt we think has been taken out there in terms of the losses that were declared. As we know, in the quarter, the bank was delaying results. December results were delayed to March. People were worried. They knew there would be a run on the bank. That's when the RBI stepped in with a moratorium. And we also know that the losses increased dramatically. So the September end losses were bad loans, not losses. Losses, of course, were high, but bad loans themselves were 17,134 crores. These soared to over 40,709 crores. Now that's a big, big jump. And it is out. When the capital adequacy is restored, that dirt has been taken out. Is there more? We don't know. They have huge exposure to telecom. We know what's happening in the Supreme Court. Will that money come back? Now, the bank and people involved in the reconstruction have gone public saying they expect 8,500 crore to be recovered. Who are the people who have the maximum bad loans? They are people who've been very close to this government and powerful industrialists like Anil Ambani's group. ZTV of Subhash Chandra, Mr. Subhash Chandra is a Rajya Sabha MP, and of course the usual suspects like Rana Kapoor himself getting kickbacks. He's being questioned in the India Bulls case, Diwan Housing. Will this money come back? They've made statements that their loans are secured and they're going to pay back. So if that money comes back, it goes straight to the bottom line, which is another very positive thing in favor of Yes Bank. We have to, again, wait and watch until the money comes. It's all talk, right? And we see too much of talk. CBI has registered cases. We have seen that they drag on. When the money comes into the bank, that's what counts. So, like I said, great effort, good move for once, and so positive that something different has been done. It has been done fast. Depositors' money has been kept safe, unlike in PMC Bank. It is going to be worth watching whether this new management understands the responsibility, whether SBI understands the world is watching and makes this bank work and turns it around as it should. Let's hope they don't get involved in completely unessential exercises like renaming the bank or rebranding it. This bank had a good reputation except for this short interregnum when it went down. Yes is a fine enough name. Let's keep it. Let's work hard at reviving it. Let's not waste time in branding and nonsense like this. You don't need props. You need hard work. All the best to the new management and all the best to SBI. We need a good example in this country. We've had too much of bad news. Thank you.